Welcome. You're listening to the GrowOrtho podcast presented by Hip Creative. This podcast is dedicated to those who want to stand strong in their market and be leaders in their community. Now on to the show with your host, Luke Infinger.
I'm Dr. Keith Dressler. I've been practicing orthodontics in Chattanooga, Tennessee for, 37 years now, and loved every minute.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to chat today, and really looking forward to discussing finances, wealth, taxes, and just see where the conversation takes us. So take us all the way back to the beginning of you in school, coming out of school, and just what that looked like.
Yeah, when I got out, first of all, I have to say I was very, very fortunate. I did not have debt, but I did work when I was in school. When I was in dental school, I worked in the anatomy lab to make extra money. And when I was out in my orthodontic residency, I moonlighted as a general dentist to have myself sort of debt-free when I got out of school. So very different than today when people are coming out of school with literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. So that would be a difference from when I got out to today. Also, I would tell you that I was told early on, maybe when I was in ortho school, that the best way to accumulate wealth is to live below your means. That would be your number one way of accumulating wealth. And that's really what I did. I mean, I could have driven any type of car I wanted. When you get out, everybody's willing to give you more loans and whatnot, but I drove a very inexpensive car. It was a minivan. I mean, in the day, here I am, and I was single. So I'm a single man in town driving a minivan, and I knew literally nothing about finances at the time, because I thought I could walk into a bank and I could tell them, hey, I'm an orthodontist, here's my license, I'm setting up, I need a loan to start my practice. And that's what I did. And they said, well, how much do you need? And I told them about $250,000 back in that day. And they told me, I'm sorry, we can't give you but 90 or something to that nature. And I go, what do you mean you can't give me 90? Isn't going to cut it. I said, how am I going to make it on 90? I'm going to have people's salaries to pay, so forth, so on. I said, I actually walked out of that meeting thinking I'm going to another bank. I went to another bank, they'll give me 30. And I went to another bank, they'll give me 15. So I'm going, 90's looking real good now, So I end up going, and I got in debt for the first time in my life, and never been in debt before. I honestly did not sleep for literally the first 3 months that I started my practice, wondering how in the world am I going to get out of debt. And then I finally realized, well, the only one to really suffer if I don't make it is me. I was not married at the time, and it was a good opportunity, and I began to sleep, and fortunately was able to get out of debt really within the first 2 years of my practice. So I was lucky from that regard. And I was in a time where I was a hometown boy, so a lot of people knew me. And I felt like I got off to a very quick start that enabled me to get out of debt. And at that time versus today, even though the amount of debt wasn't as much as people are coming out, the interest was 16, 17, 18%. So that was a big hit on you every single month. So again, we were taught, I was taught to just get out of debt as fast as possible and get to profitability. So that's what I did. if I was advising people today, again, everything's based on interest rates. That can either help you or hurt you. If you can make more money on the money when interest rates are low, I recommend having a loan. I have loans today because I can make more money off of somebody else's money than having my money do virtually nothing for me. So it does matter. Interest rates matter in a society, and you have to try to understand where they're going. And I would say the only time I would think about getting in debt is to know that I could pay it back off. If interest rates got out of hand, I could pay it off, and now I'm not, I can't make money on somebody else's money in that regard. So that's sort of how I started. That's what I did. There was a couple other things I'd like to share with the audience, if I may, that I think are important business knowledge to know. And in a tax-free environment, there is what is called the Rule of 72. Now, the reason that's important to understand is if you can get tax-free money, which right now in a retirement plan or of any type, an IRA, you get tax-free interest. And so what the Rule 72 says is you can tell how long it takes for your money to double at a certain interest rate. So if you can get 6% interest on an investment, it would take you, if you took 6, divided it into 72, it takes 12 years to double your money. So that's basically what that says. And on the reverse of that, if it was you were getting 12% return, well, it only takes you 6 years to double your money. So that's important to understand, because I have felt to become, to actually accumulate wealth, you want to do it in a tax-free environment. And until you max out that tax-free environment, should you think about the taxable environment, because then you're not actually able to accumulate as much if everything's going to be taxed. So when I started, and I was 27 years old, I set up for my practice a profit and pension plan and a retirement plan. And I would recommend to everybody, whether you think you can afford it or not, you have to afford it. Because the earlier you get started, the wealthier you become in a shorter amount of time. And the compounding of the money gets to such a degree that you will get to a point where you're overfunded, which is where I am. And I probably stopped 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. I stopped the plan because I was overfunded. And overfunding does mean you would have to pay extra tax on money as it would come out later. But understand, there's nothing better to save and to accumulate wealth than in a retirement plan or any vehicle that would be state and federal tax-free. So I started there. And then once I understood that, I began to look at, again, this is not an option today because interest rates are low, but if interest rates go back up, it's something everybody needs to think about, and that is there are tax-free, state and federal tax-free bonds. And I began to take extra money after I had funded my profit and pension plan fully, and that means paying for employees as well. It's not just paying for yourself. Your best advantage is to pay for employees. And if you are married, and once I did get married, I was able to put my wife on the payroll, and between the both of us, the amount of money is sky high as to what you can give each other and accumulate together versus just one person. So again, that's basically what you would want to do. And then you would want to think, if interest rates are high enough, tax-free bonds, okay? And again, if you can get 6%, know that your money is going to double. And basically, I started putting in $10,000 a month into tax-free bonds that were 10 years in duration. If I knew what I know today, what interest rates were going to do and drop, I would have gone 30 years. And I still think maybe 30-year laddering might be the better way to do it anyway, because you don't know, but you're always in at market rate. So if they go up, if you're laddering, for 30 years, every year that it's going up, you're just getting bonds that are paying higher and you're laddering yourself up. Unfortunately, after 10 years, it began to ladder myself down, and it got to a point where doesn't even make sense to buy a tax-free bond that's going to pay you 0.5%. You'd rather go a little riskier, try to make 6-8%, pay taxes on that, and do better than your federal and state tax-free bond. So, but I was able to ladder bonds for 10 years, and basically putting in $10,000 a month for 10 years in 10-year bonds, and it generated enough wealth that really, by the time I was 33 years old, I've shared this with you before, I felt that I was independently wealthy. And what that meant to me, and to define that term, is that the lifestyle that I was living, which is, again, beneath what I could live at, the interest on those bonds would have paid for my entire lifestyle. So I had nothing to really worry about. Those bonds, and again, my naivety was thinking that those bonds were going to last forever, but I guess they lasted me a good 20, 25 years before it got so bad that it's just not the best investment today. But I share that with people because, again, the rule of 72 is important in a tax-free environment, and any other types of tax-free environments that might be available to you is where I would put my money first if you can get a decent return.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So with your practice, you took a different approach, whereas you got the practice to a certain level and you started to identify things within the practice in order to create new products, services to better the experience or industry. So start really, I guess, at the beginning, and how you started to identify some of these areas where you could create other products or services for the industry. And fast forward today, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm a process guy. I'm all about, number one, patient experience. Number two, efficiency and effectiveness. So of processes within the practice to create a patient experience that's beyond no other, okay? So that's where I'm coming at this from. So in orthodontics, what we would do in the day when I first got out, when you would set up pay arrangements, first of all, there were a couple of things that I went to a course that said, do you know you orthodontists are not practicing smart business? And I didn't know what they were talking about, except for the fact they went on to say, you're a bank and you're giving interest-free loans, not even knowing the creditworthiness of the person you're giving your interest-free loan to have treatment. Because the way we would do it is similar to today. There was no interest, but you'd give a down payment, monthly payments over a period of time. And back in that day, you would hand a payment book to the patient that had a date that if it wasn't paid by this date, we would then print out a statement, send it to them, and in my mind, that is chasing the money. And the people that I have hired were not bankers. I mean, you've got to think about this. That's what bankers do. They lend money, they collect money. Well, we're lending money, collecting money, but we're not hiring bankers as part of the process here. We're hiring people that know nothing about doing just that. So it began to be chase the money type of thing. Phone lines were always busy, especially inbound and outbound, when we would send out statements at the end of every month of the people who hadn't paid their monthly payment. So when I would look at it from a practice side of things, it was probably the biggest thorn in the practice's side was the billing and collecting of money at that time. And it took up lots of phone time, because you get obviously the excuses, hey, I've sent my check in. If you don't get it in another few days, call me back, that sort of thing. So in 1999, I believe, or it might have been late 98, but somewhere in there, I was asked by my bank to, if I would consider doing something novel, and that is drafting my mortgage payment out of the, of what is called a direct draft. Well, what is a direct draft? Oh, they automatically are going to take it from my account and just pay the bank back automatically every month on a certain date. And I got to pick the date when I felt like I was going to be paid. So I picked the end of the month, because I get paid one time a month at the end of the month there. So that's what I did. And after seeing that, a light went on. I should be doing this with 100% of my patients. I need to be drafting. And at that time, high-speed internet was just coming in. It was beginning to get a little stable. So I had some programmers come into my practice in 1999 and began writing a program to draft every single one of my patients. And I had felt like if this was going to be successful, that I wanted to roll it out to the entire orthodontic community and sort of change the way we thought about accounts receivable and how we collected it to make the process more streamlined. And I wanted to think about it being able to be done all through the internet versus, again, back in that day, anytime you got an update to anything, they sent a floppy disk, you put it in, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it was just a lot of pain in the updates of getting floppy disks, updating whatever you had. So I felt like, man, wouldn't it be cool, again, from an ease and convenience side of things, if the whole system could be updated at once and everybody's updated together. So before the cloud was the cloud, this was, how I envisioned doing this. And lo and behold, this whole thing became Orthobanc, was evolved from this. And we started doing it in my practice. And I used to send out 450 statements a month. My staff would tell me, Dr. Dressler, we need more telephone lines. I had 6 lines and they were all busy. Well, they're all busy from mainly collecting money. And I didn't realize it until I began drafting everybody. And at that time, too, the banks told me that electronic transactions were processed before any paper transactions. So we used to get all these paper checks. We would take them to the bank and manually enter them into the system, and those would be processed last compared to anything that was done electronically. So in the beginning days of Orthobanc, it was great because there weren't many people that were processing electronically, and we were able to get everybody to do it. But the second I moved, and it took 2 years to get everybody off of the manual payment book to this automated way of doing things. But the second we did, our phone stopped ringing. I didn't need 6 lines. I probably needed 2, maybe 3, because the only calls we were getting were new patients and or repairs. That's it. You know, we weren't getting any of the calls. Those calls about payments were offloaded to another company, Orthobanc, who would take all of those calls. So again, when you think about the processes, it's great. And then you think about separating church and state in that regard as well. So you keep, when I say that, you could focus on what you wanted to focus on, which was, again, exceptional customer service, exceptional care, the best treatment in the world type of thing. And you didn't have to bother yourself, nor did anybody in your practice, about really the money side. They had a whole nother company that would be an extension of your practice, treat people correctly, and take care of the money items that would come up. So we were able to separate that so they don't view the orthodontist or the practice as the bad guy if they're not paying the bill. You know, they can view somebody else as the bad guy, because if it was us calling, it's very different than Orthobanc calling, you know. So to me, it was the best of all worlds there. And I got into wanting to look at building my own things because of this. I would have never thought about this in a million years, except for the fact that, again, once I had gotten in a wealth standpoint, once I had gotten all my tax-free bonds and I was maxed out on any and every way tax-free that I could go, I then was, opportunities come your way. I mean, I was investing in other companies that I liked the ideas in and putting significant sums of money, $200,000, $300,000 into these companies, and literally I lost it all. I lost all that money investing into other ideas because even though I was a limited partner, it was limited, meaning I couldn't control operations of somebody else.
Right.
And at that time, these people believed in appearance versus reality. They would spend literally millions of dollars in renting the best space in America on the top floor with the most expensive furniture and everything, and using a lot of investment dollars for appearance, yet it wasn't creating money. So it wasn't creating success of the company, and these companies would ultimately go under. And they were taking incredibly high salaries to run the company, so there was no way to create profits that it could be successful. Well, after losing really close to $1 million, which is a lot of money back at that time, I said, no longer, if I'm going to lose that kind of money, then I'm going to lose it doing it my way myself, and I want to control what goes on. It's just my personality type. So that's why, Orthobanc was created there. And I actually cut my teeth in my first business 3 or 4 years prior to that, where I had created a national patient finance company similar to Care Credit, but we were in the medical side. My whole family are physicians. I was sort of the outcast orthodontist. And I created a Care Credit type of product and model for the medical industry. We were financing elective healthcare procedures, cosmetic surgery, infertility treatments, laser eye surgery, actually hearing aids, digital hearing aids. And I have a hearing impaired son. It went from analog to digital somewhere around the 1997, 98 time frame, and we began to finance those there. I ended up selling that company to Citigroup. It became the Citi Health Card in 2003. And actually Orthobanc was created in 2000. I needed another partner. I had a partner who would run all the day-to-day. I was sort of the vision and the strategy part of it, but I didn't have time because I was involved with this other company, which was called Elite Physician Services at the time. And again, what I would tell you from a wealth development side of things is I believe that you should have multiple sources of income. And in what I did, my multiple sources came from my own money where I could control. And for me, that worked the best rather than to give it to somebody and I'm a limited partner. That's, I can handle losing the money myself. I have a tougher time when I give my money to somebody and they lose it doing things that I would never do to run a business,
Multiple income streams, diversification, multiple streams of revenue. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, and I want you to understand it's not IT companies only that allow the multiple income streams. Yes, that's a multiple income stream. It's beautiful in the fact that those are money coming in without you having to spend a lot of time. So what I'm talking about is that. And there are other ways to create that I had that were, again, from diversification, not just in the, let's just call it healthcare IT arena. We had, I'll call the real estate arena, which is probably more common with more people. Mm-hmm. And my very, very first home was a townhome. Again, very inexpensive. I didn't live in any mansion or above my means. I lived very, very below my means there. And when I moved out, I did not sell the place. I rented it. So it became a rental stream for me. And when I looked at, I think I'd been in practice 8 years, and then I was renting at that time. Again, you're trying to keep expense structure as low as possible, pay the debt off as fast as possible back then. But then once you've accumulated, paid the debt off, you can now do lots more things. And so I looked to buy land, build my own building, and let that real estate be an income stream for me. So now I basically rent from myself. Now, what your attorneys and wealth managers are going to tell you, which you're going to need to do, is when that day comes, that needs to be put in a separate corporation. So my building that I own, or that a corporation owns, that I own the corporation, it's in the corporate name, and also any properties that I'm renting are within that name as well. So effectively, I've got this shell real estate company that I have rental income from every year. So when you look at diversification, I've got an orthodontic practice that creates revenue that I have to be at, pretty much all the time, or it's not going to generate revenue. Then I've got a property that I don't have to. I just need a property manager that can manage that and collect rents from. So I've got income coming in there. Then I've got IT companies or company that I've got income coming in there, and then it just so happens I sold one of them just recently at the end of 2020, a very, very significant sell, and you end up, rather than it being on paper, non-liquid, you've got a company that's valued pretty significantly. It all of a sudden has become liquid, and now you've got that money that was created for the business that you had created 20 years ago.
Right.
Okay. So that's where that is. But today, I'll get you to today. As you know, I formed back in 2015. I started, the end of 2015 was when I had it on paper, and it'd been in my head for a long time. But communication changed literally back in 2007 is when texting actually became, it exceeded voice communication, 2007. Now, 2015 is when I began to feel it in my business, actually in 2013. So probably 6 years after texting surpassed voice, you began to feel it in my practice, because I had millennial parents coming in. And so I knew that we had to create some sort of modernization of communication, because whether I liked it or not, the moms or my patients were texting my staff, because that was the easiest way, to my staff's personal cell phones. They were texting me to my personal cell phone if I should had it. They were getting online, and first Facebook business pages were in, and they were using the business messenger. They did not want to voice call my practice anymore. They would prefer this different and easier means of communication. And so I looked, is there anything out there that could accomplish this? And there wasn't. So again, just my entrepreneurial nature and who I am as a person with ideas that can really, again, make things more convenient. I went out and formed and developed Rhinogram, which does just that. It delivers modern communication, but being in healthcare, it needs to be compliant. So it has the compliance, it has the convenience for the patients. If you think about them first, they're telling me, they're already texting here. I don't need somebody to say I need to do this. My patients are telling me, and if you listen to them, meaning you pay attention that that's what they're doing, then you give them what they want, and you now have what you're wanting to accomplish in the first place, and that's exceptional customer service with exceptional care. And you can't beat that. And again, it's still hard for a lot of people to get away from traditional communication of, I want everyone to call my practice, through voice, and then they have to leave a message or whatnot. May not get you, may get a busy signal, who knows. But if they can just simply text you, again, it's really what they wanted to do in the first place. And or social media message you. That's how they want to communicate today. So you need a modern form of communication, which again is what Rhinogram provides.
Yeah, that's great. In terms of, to go back to investments, a lot of doctors I know have little financial literacy, and even just business people in general, and will choose someone to do it for them. And that decision can be pretty paramount, because if you're making the wrong decision and the wrong person is advising you, then obviously you might not do so well. In some cases, you may even lose a lot of money. So the people I know with more financial acumen and knowledge, they're usually the ones doing better. And so you've obviously educated yourself to some degree. How much do you have to know? How much time do you have to invest? And how do you choose the right people to help you?
That's probably the hardest thing in the whole wide world. Okay. Again, from my perspective, and I'm going to give you what I did when I came back to town and why my perspective is my perspective. So for me, I had 5 good friends that I was in school with, that as soon as I got out, and started my own orthodontic practice, they were on me about setting up an investment account. And these people were, at Merrill Lynch, J.C. Bradford, you name any of the, J.C. Bradford may not be around anymore, but you name any of these top brokerage firms, they were there. They were brokers in the firm. And just much like I said to them, look, I'm a specialist in orthodontics. And so, if you want the best, you come to me, and I basically guarantee them that they're going to get the best care. And they would agree. Same thing for heart surgeon. You go to a heart specialist. I'm thinking these people are the best at managing money, and so I should get the best. So what I did was I said to every one of them, I'm going to give you $10,000, and I'm going to give you discretionary buy and sell, because I'm not an expert. I shouldn't be having to tell you what to get me in. And I only want to meet once a year. I don't want you calling me every minute. Again, I'm about convenience. Let's meet once a year. We'll go over the portfolio. And all I'm asking is that you get 1 point above LIBOR rate, which is a low rate, less than whatever interest rate is out there. And all of them said, that's Mickey Mouse. I said, if you get 1 point above, I'm going to give you another $10,000. And I said, I understand as well that markets go up and down, and that if you had gotten me 2 points, 3 points, 5 points, 5 percentage points above LIBOR, that it's going to be a cumulative deal. It's not a one single year deal. So if you get me 5 1 year and I lose 1 the following year, I'm still net 4. I'm going to be fine. Okay. You're fine, because again, you have to be real about market conditions. So I felt like I was very real. Now I will tell you that in the first year after I did that, the markets went wild, and I didn't know what I didn't know what my accounts had done. I'm assuming, it probably killed LIBOR. I mean, I might be 10 points higher than LIBOR in some of these cases. And I had 5 different ones, 5 different brokerage houses. And much to my amazement, 3 didn't even make it. I lost money with 3 of them. Now, how, I could put it in any mutual fund, anything, and I would have made a lot of money. But I didn't make anything. They were buying and selling and doing, and they were making money, but whether I did or not, okay? So those 3 were gone. I said, you're done. Give me my money. I'm done with you. If you can't, in one of the hottest markets in the history of the stock market, you can't make me any money, I'm losing money, then you obviously aren't good at what you do, type of thing. So I gave the other 2 10 additional 10, and I met a year later, the market did crazy again, and they didn't make it. And so I learned really quickly that the old saying of who cares about your money the most should be you. So I would tell anybody and everybody, based on, again, my experience, that if people can make money, whether you do or not, it's a hard pill for me to potentially swallow. Okay. So I like actually, again, controlling my own destiny, not allowing somebody to control my money. So if I want to invest in some wild ass stock tip and I lose, well, that was my choice. I'm not, I did that to myself, which is really why my preferred way of making money is in businesses that I can create, that I don't have to spend, that will shed off money and will grow in value, versus trying to go in and have either a stock expert pick or have market conditions. I mean, market conditions are going just wild right now. There'll be a lot of people that make a lot of money. But I want to share something with you as well. So going back to my profit and pension days, okay, I was the fiduciary responsibility to all my employees. Now, I was told not to do that. I should give it to a brokerage house, and they would give different investments that they could put in. And so I said, no, I'm not doing that. We've got a long time to grow. We're 27 years old. I'm going to put you in something that's going to earn conservative interest. And conservative interest back then, like I said, 17% is what you were paying in interest rates. 8% return was conservative. So I would double my money every 9 years in the rule of 72. So we're plugging along. And then if you remember the dot-com boom, stocks were going crazy. And I had some of my employees come to me because when I give them the year end, here's your performance, we're performing 8, and their husbands were making 30%, 40% return, and they're asking me about what's going on. And I said, we've agreed. I told you when I became fiduciary, this is what we're doing. And I said, but we may not make as high, but we don't have a downside risk to what we're doing.
Right.
Okay. So they were all on me for a couple of years. Then all of a sudden it burst, and their husband's 401k or retirement plan actually went to close to zero. And theirs kept on plodding along. And, they ended up, when I closed, I had numerous employees that had been with me for a long time, have $200,000-300,000 in retirement money made off of conservative time. If you've got time, that's why I say do it as early as you can. Then you don't have to have these exorbitant interest returns to create the wealth. You can just plod along, never worry about losing any of your money, put it in something conservative, and grow through time. If you're waiting until 50 or 60 to start growing, well, then you need return or you're not going to get there, So that's why I believe in early starting as soon as you can in tax-free environments there. And at the end of the day, again, my staff way exceeded their husband's retirement at the end of the day. And it was just going along. Yeah, you've got big ups, but you've got big downs that can occur too. And again, just from knowledge of money, if you lose 50% of your value of whatever your investment is, it takes on the other side to actually get to back up to that value. It's not a 50% increase. It's like a 65% increase to actually get to back to even. And that's important to understand when you're looking at preserving capital, especially young. And that's like when the stockbrokers would tell me, well, Keith, you've got a lot of earning capacity. So what that you lost $10,000 at, let's just say 30 years old. Well, again, take every 12 years, well, let's just say every 10 years, because that'd be about what it is, my money would have doubled in a tax-free bond type of scenario. So if I was 30 and I invested $10,000, by the time I was 40, it would have been 20. By the time I was 50, it would have been 40. By the time I was 60, it would have been 80. By the time I was 70, 160. By the time I'm 90, 320. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm not losing 10,000. That's not how I view money when you're young. If I'm 90 and I invest 10,000, then yeah, okay, I lose 10,000. That's it. But if I'm 30 and I lose 10,000, I've actually lost hundreds of thousands in the power of that money conservatively growing. Okay, so that's how I've always looked at money. That's how I think your audience should look at money. Is the younger you are, the more valuable that 10,000 really is. It's not the fact that you're going to earn. It's the fact that you didn't lose 10,000. You lost hundreds of thousands if you lost it early. Where you, like I said, late, it's gonna just be whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's fine, you know.
Yeah. So the steady horse wins the race.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can't get, you know, the thing with everybody, human nature. And again, it's not that I haven't thrown money. I just told you I lost, you know, $1 million. I mean, you know, at times. So it's not like you don't participate in the fun of the game, so to speak,
Right.
of what your compatriots are doing. But you have to realize that's after you've stabilized yourself everywhere else. It is the fun money, the money that, okay, I'll crapshoot with this money here. Let's see if I can hit a grand slam off of a wild hair investment of some type. But everybody that I know that has big money, that, you know, truly independently wealthy, hundreds of millionaire people to billionaire people, they always have what they would consider safe money, because what ultimately begins to occur is there are places that you can actually put a good bit of money and earn a well over bank interest, but in a conservative way. And those opportunities come your way with bigger money to deal with. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have to look at investing anywhere from $2 to $5 million in this type of arrangement, where you might be actually funding and helping fund a PE company or a VC company or whatever, where they're going to pay you higher rates, but it's going to be secured against actually either revenues or properties they own or something. So it's 100% safe that you're getting a higher return than just putting it in the bank and getting 0.25% on your money,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
So anything else you would share to doctor, dentist, orthodontist, just looking to make good decisions with what they've been given and the money they're generating?
Well, I'm gonna delve into life a little bit, okay, about philosophy of life, and I think the first thing is I give all the glory to God. Again, I'm not religious, but I'm highly spiritual. So whoever you look up to, you worship to, that's got to be first in your life, and then your family, and then this, okay? Unfortunately, the way the society we live in, we're in some sense slaves to money, to where you can make a living for your family and everything else, which in my mind is sort of backwards. And hopefully you're going to be able to play this back in 3, 4, 5 months, a year, whatever. When I say this, I am really looking for my spirituality has gotten to such an extent that I'm really believing our world is evolving into higher ascension. And even though, as we're recording this, everything may seem doom and gloom and pandemic globally and all this stuff, I really believe it's going to ultimately, we're going to come out of this darkness into extreme lightness. And I'm really prayerful, hopeful for a new awakening of spirituality, where no one has to worry ever again a day in their life about how to put bread on their table. We all become millionaires through Nasara Jasara law. Again, those listening may not understand it and it may never come to pass, but I really believe that's where we're headed, so that we can have a civilization that advances itself, and all you're worried about is what you love to do and how you can help humanity, and how humanity can get to a whole nother level of existence, and your consciousness is going to go to a whole nother level. And I really believe that's where we are. But in case that doesn't happen, okay, in case that doesn't happen, again, I've always believed in being very, very thankful and appreciative every day of your life for what you do have, not worrying about what you don't have. And I can't tell you how many orthodontists that I talk to that get upset that their biggest referral sources are referring to the new guy in town and not them. And they had referred to them and had made their practice big. In my opinion, that's not being grateful for the time that dentist referred to you. You shouldn't resent the dentist that refers to a younger guy in town. You should be thankful that you got to where you were able to get through that dentist during however long it was, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. You're thankful for everything versus resentful. And I can't tell you how many resentful orthodontists I run into that are highly successful financially, everything else, but they're upset because their biggest referrer decided to refer to someone else. Well, that's their choice, and it doesn't necessarily reflect on you as a practitioner of your work or anything else. They may just feel they want to help another guy come along and be successful as you are. So it's part of what I would call the life cycle of being an orthodontist. So I would suggest to everyone out there, whether you're young or whether you're on the back end of your practice, to be thankful and appreciative of everything that you've had the opportunity to be. And again, that is mindset. That is, to me, if you look at it and you're resentful, then to me, you're a selfish person. And selfishness doesn't exist in my world. Selflessness exists in my world. And I personally believe the more selfless you are, the more successful you are, because people understand that. I've never viewed myself, no matter who it is. Somebody could be in here working on the tiles of my floor or whatever, or the garbage collector. I'm no better than them at all as a person. Their humanity is as important as my humanity. I've been blessed. I've been lucky in some sense to be able to live out my dream. I've wanted to be an orthodontist since I was 12 years old, was able to be what I wanted to be. I've been able to use the creative side of my brain to create things within healthcare that helped all of healthcare, or at least portions of healthcare. And to me, my life can't be any better. But it didn't come from me wanting to be selfish about anything. It's me wanting to help everybody with everything, and understanding selflessness and appreciation for everything that I've been afforded, because I could not have all of this as well.
Right.
But like I said, just because you don't have it doesn't mean that humanity is any greater or less than you. It's not. And that's why I've always tried to help those of lesser means, those who are struggling. I've tried to contribute to society the best way that I can. And I will tell you this too, as we wind this up, and this is an important understanding. I would also share with your audience that the wealthier you get, the harder it is to be happy in some sense. And happiness is not derived from how many chips you've got, to your side of the table in a poker sense, right? It's not how much money you've got. It's what you're able to do. But the more you have, the more you get pulled on by humanity, and maybe to such an extent that it can sour you to trying to help humanity, meaning I like helping the pieces of humanity that I'm directly involved with. I have special needs son, anything and everything of the various special needs. He's hearing impaired, so I'm highly involved with, audiology, hearing, the Speech and Hearing Center, the Achieve Center, which is for kids that are hearing impaired or totally deaf, learning to sign or speak from 18 months old to 6 years old so that they can actually attend and be mainstreamed in school, public school systems. That's important to me. He's autistic, so helping, found the Autism Center here in Chattanooga was important to me to help all the people with autism. We were at a school on Signal Mountain and they didn't have a gym, and being able to be a lead contribution to a gym that served the entire school and would serve the entire school for long term is important to me. But with that said, and I would tell you too, if I had to think about this again, I would not want my name associated with any of my gifts, because the mere fact that they put my name on various things created the side of this that becomes very, very difficult in your head. I'm a very giving person, but literally I'll get a call or two calls every single day about giving to this or giving to that. And you hate saying no, but you have to put a stop somewhere, because otherwise you're giving to, 2,000, 3,000 organizations. Mm-hmm. And in reality, I did that at one point, small contributions to everyone, thinking that would be good. But I realized you can't make the impact that you want to make to any organizations if you're just giving that small amount. So I ended up limiting myself to probably 5 that I give more significantly to, that are closer to my heart or closest to my heart. But having to say no is hard, and especially knowing that every organization is worthwhile, every single one of them. I just personally am not wealthy enough to be able to give significantly enough to make a difference. And if I can't make a difference, I really have a problem in giving, because I really want to make a difference and don't mind giving bigger sums of money to where I can make a difference. So that's where it gets harder from a happiness standpoint, because you're pulled into lots of situations and things that make saying no very, very difficult, where you never had to deal with them when you didn't have the wealth that you have today. So that part takes away from happiness, because giving is from the heart. And so when you give and you're seeing the difference you're making and all, that feels so good, because that's what you wanted to do. But when you're having to say no, that feels so bad. And you're having to say a whole bunch more no's than yeses. And that takes away, again, some of the happiness that would have been there if you didn't have to say no. Because it's not that the cause is unworthy, it's the fact that you can't give to every single cause.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good advice.
Yeah.
So if somebody would like to get a hold of you to learn more, maybe about Rhinogram or even just about what you've spoken about in terms of finances, et cetera, how should they do that?
Well, I would say text me. I mean, that's okay. And they can do this two ways. They can text my personal cell. That's my preference. And the number will be 423-505-7712. Again, 423-505-7712. Or you can look up my office, Dr. Keith Dressler. You can text my office there too. It doesn't matter. That's my preference there.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat and go through some of this information.
Yeah, and I love being part of this, Luke, and I appreciate you reaching out to me, and anything I can do for you, the company, the profession of orthodontics, more than happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about improving your healthcare marketing, day-to-day operations, and standing strong in your market, send us an email at hello@hipcreativeinc.com. That's hello@hipcreativeinc.com. Or jump over to our website at hip.agency.